Hello, welcome back to another cloud computing class. Today we will create together a small application using Node.js. So I thought it would be a better example if we have something in our mind like a use case and we will start slowly build up our application. So let's assume that I have an idea for a startup. So every good idea starts with a small logo and a nice name. So for my case, my idea is about a small application that users can watch short films. Personally, I like the short films, so it would be something similar to Netflix, but in reality, it's a short film streaming application. So I called this mini film, and probably it's not a so good idea, but in any case, I will try to do it in Node.js. So starting with this idea, what I will need is probably a database. So a database is the place where I will store all my data. So how the data should look like? Well, I thought a little bit about it and I considered this example as a good instance of my data. So I can say there is a film, every film should have an ID, a name, type, year, and a link. Probably there will be so many other fields here like directors, actors, durations, and stuff like that, but for the moment I can go on only with this one. Also, what I can see here is that this looks like a JSON file. So for those you already work with JSON files, you know this kind of key value format is a nice representation of a data. In our case, and in this module, we will use this JSON representation to store data, and we'll see how we can actually store data, delete, update, and in any case, how we can work with what we call NoSQL data. So starting with the database, the next thing that I will probably need is a web server. Now we talk about web servers, we said that a simple web server is the Apache web server, but an alternative one that we will use is the Node.js. So we use Node.js in order to create a web server. Now this web server will help me to serve clients, my users, and this I expect to have a million of users, and these users will be able to access my data using this web server and probably some scripts that I have to create in order to allow them to interact with my data. So there are two components of my mini film application that I need to think about. The first is what we call the backend. The backend is the heart of my system, is where I will develop all my key functionality. For example, if the user wants to watch a film, what the user has to do is to search for these films. This action, it will be something that will be performed by the backend. So any kind of operation that we'll have in the backend, including creating data, reading data, deleting data, or updating data, it will happen here in my backend. My application will also have a frontend. The frontend is this nice interface that we have in order to interact with the user. We can go there, search for the movie. So we can use a frontend, for example, for my smart TV, for my iPad, let's say, or I wanted to for my favorite browser. So you can create different frontend for different environments. In our case, we will not explore the use of frontends in this module. However, for those you are looking to create a full stack application is an application that includes frontend and backend, then I will give you some good directions for other programming frameworks that you can probably integrate with Node.js. So our focus here is on backend, on the web server and the database. So we'll actually work with a database. In our case, the database for this module, it will be the MongoDB, although we will explore more. For this coursework, we can use the MongoDB instance that will provide it online for us. We will use backend and Node.js, and we'll learn how to create this application to interact with the database and provide all these important points for my user, that is the data that the user wants to explore. And we will use also Node.js in order to build our server. So let's start and let's see how we can actually do this in Node.js. Okay, so let's start. Our first step is to go into my Visual Studio Code and open a new folder. I will use a folder in my desktop in my case, and I will call it Minifilm app. So we can call it like that. And I can create this folder and just open the folder. Now, having this folder, I can actually start playing around here with Node.js. Okay, I will trust the authors, as we said in the previous sessions. I will open a new terminal and it should be fine. I can start now. As we said, whenever we have a new folder for us to work, we will need to initialize, okay, so npm init, and I will initialize my application. I will just press enter here again. I don't want to add anything here, and I can see my package.json. The next thing for me is to install two more packages. The first package is this express package, and then the second is the NodeMon. So again, let's install this both together here. I can run with just one command. Express is the package that I will use for Node.js to develop my code. NodeMon is the package that I use in order to restart my server whenever I do some changes. I can go to the package.json. We need, as we say always, to adapt this script here and say, whenever you say start my application, the NodeMon tool will just run my application.js. It's something like that for here to always restart our servers fast. Okay, so we did our first configuration. I will just close my package.json and I should be fine now. Right, so let's start and let's create a new file here, or as we say, we can click here. I can call it app.js. Usually is my basic file for my application. We'll call it always app.js. Now, here we need to say, let's create an express variable, and this variable will actually help me to import my library, that is the express library. That's the first step. And then we can say here constant app, this is an express app. And so I have my express app created here. So usually what I have to do is just create a small example, let it run, see that everything works, and then we can start building our routes. Now, I can create here a small route, and I will say here app.get. And we say in this route, request response. I will always, whenever there's a request, I will respond back by sending, let's put it here like that, homepage, okay? That should be fine for the moment. This is the homepage, and then I can say here app listen at port 3000. And if we say, usually we say, let's use the console to log here just a message, your server is up and running. All right, so I have my server up and running. So that should be all. I created a small example here. I will go here to my terminal. I will clear my screen and I will say I can start my server now. So npm start. Now my server is ready. Hopefully, if I go here to my Google Chrome, in my case, here in one of these windows, I will say, go to localhost 3000 homepage. Everything should be fine. I'm having a small server up and running. All right, so let's think about now what we have to do. We need, let's say, we need to create a route. Whenever the user goes here, let's say something like films, all right? And you can press enter and you can take data from the database. So I will do my route and then I will see how I will actually create my data, right? Because I don't have anything yet. I'm just thinking how I can actually organize this, all right? So I imagine something like that. So I will go here and I will say, let's create a new folder called routes. And inside this routes folder, I will create a new file. I will call this films.js. And in this films.js, I will have my data. I will start like that. So again, one more time, let's import this express package. We did that in the previous class as well. Let's create our router, and our router, it should be something like this one, router.express router, right? This is the router. I just created this one. Let me create my path, link it to the app.js, just show a message now, and then we'll see how we can actually connect to the database and all these things. Although we don't have a database yet, let's see how we'll do it. All right, so let's create something very simple. Router.get, and whenever you come here and we say, whenever you go to the films, so I don't have to add films here as well, your request for data, and I will respond back with a send. My send, it will be films. For the moment, I will adjust this in a while. So I just created here my films. What I have also to do here is, remember always here we need to export. So module.exports, and we export the router, so we can actually export this file to the app, right? So we'll have to go now back to the app and say, here at the beginning, we need to create a small middleware. And the middleware is a way to import other files to the app.js. So I will create a small middleware. I will call it constant films root. All right, so it will be the root to my films, and this will require, I will require here, and I have to go to the folder called roots, access the file films. All right, so the films root will be to the films. So whenever you go here to this roots, I will be able to redirect you to the films. All right, so I can say here app.use, and whenever you go to films, I will send you to the films root. So let me just save this and it should be fine. Now let me go back to my browser here and say now, let's see the films. Yes, the root is ready. Okay, so I created my root and I will see now how I will access my database in a second. I'm just having a simple application as we did by now with a root, and I can also have my homepage as well. So that would be the first part. Now let's go and think about our data. That would be the second part. Okay, I'm in my browser, and what I will do is first I will connect to MongoDB. I will go here, I will open a new window, I will say MongoDB Atlas, something like that, and I will go to the first option that I will have here, the available option. I will go to the MongoDB Atlas and I will get redirected here. I will accept my cookies in this case. And what I have to do is I have to use my Google account to log in to MongoDB. MongoDB will give us a free cluster for us to use. All right, it will give us everything we need in order to deploy some data on a MongoDB cluster. So let's sign up with Google. Click here. I will click on my account and hopefully I will be redirected to the MongoDB instance that it will come for me alive in a second. First time you enter here, you have to accept the privacy policy. I will click submit. Hopefully soon I will be ready. So it will take a minute or so to deploy our first account. Now, with this MongoDB Atlas instance, you can always have a free MongoDB to use for your projects. So whenever you join here, it says, what is your goal today? I will learn MongoDB. What type of application do you build? I'm building a mobile application, let's say. What is your preferred language? I will select JavaScript because I'm using JavaScript in any case. I will click finish. And now I will select the free cluster on the right side. Okay, so click here, create. It should be fine. They will not ask my credit card, so that's good. Here it says where you want to deploy. You want to deploy in AWS, Google Cloud, Azure. It's pre-configured. The only thing I have to go here is say, it's fine. I create my cluster and I don't care a lot about this. So slowly we build it up. It says here, it will take 3 to 5 minutes to set up. The first thing, create a user. My user, it will be student. So I will click enter my user student. You can enter your name. And the password, I will just add a password. In my case, 1234, it should work for me. I hope it will allow me to use 1234. I will just create the user and success. My user is here. All right, so I created a user with a small password. Always remember the password. Okay, where you would like to connect from, it says here my local environment. So what is happening is whenever we want to connect, we need to use our IP of this server of our computer actually to connect to MongoDB. Or you can open this port available to everybody to connect. In my case, I will say, at my current IP, so that's my current IP, and finish and close, and it should be fine. All right, just go to databases, and I can, in any case, I can easily reconfigure these steps again one more time. If I want to add another IP, who will connect from where? Okay, I can see here it says never. I will say never. It says here, your database is on process to create. Will take some time. That's fine. You can load some data. I will not do it anything now, and you connect to the server. I will be okay in a second. So I will just click somewhere else. Just a couple of things here in this interface. I can see databases. Probably I will see my database and my cluster 0, 2-3 minutes. That should be ready. I will go here that says database access. I will click on the access. Here I have my student user, and the user can do anything. It's the user that we just created. I can create another user if I want. Just click here and add another user. And network access, I can see here, I have the IP of my computer. Now, if your IP changes, then you have to go here and register your new IP. And it's a kind of, let's say, security metric that we have here. So you can see here it's status pending. Okay, I can click add an IP here. And what I will do is I will allow access from anywhere. So the first thing I will do is, I don't want every time I restart my modem in my home to go here and change the IP, or I'm in another computer, all right? So just allow access from anywhere, and just click confirm. So I click here and confirm, and now I don't have an issue. Whenever I want, I will connect, all right, from whatever device I have in my home. So always it should be open. Now that's not a good practice. If we have data, only our application should be able to connect to the data, not everybody. But in our case, to make our life easier, we just allow access from anywhere. I can click here on the advanced, couple of things that I can explore, nothing important for this moment. I will go back to my databases. Still my cluster is provisioned. I can see here that I have a cluster 0, that's my first cluster, that's my first environment, okay? I can see connect, probably I will see ways to connect, view monitoring, browse collections. So I will go first to the browse collections. All right, so click here where it says browse collections. Here are the collections, and the collection is a database, right? So that's a keyword here we're looking for. I will create a small database myself. If I want, I can load the sample dataset, and this will load the data that they have in MongoDB for us. A lot of data there to explore. In my case, I will just click add my own data. Database name, I will call it my first database. If I want, I can just, to just look better, I can capitalize something like that, my first database. And my collection, it will called films. So that will be my collection. Database name, you can say, mini films. Well, why not? Let's call it mini films. Change it to the application that you prefer. Mini films is my name of my application. Films is the name of the collection where I will add my data. Probably we'll have another collection, users, and any other actor of the system. We can have it here. So films, and it should be fine. Just create, and here I can see here my films collection is ready in the mini films database. I don't have anything here. That's fine, I will create some data. So I will click here, insert document, and whenever you insert data, there is an ID that is created. So this ID is created automatically by MongoDB. We'll talk about this ID in the next classes, how this is generated and what it refers. But for our case, we only have to think about our data model, what we need to store here. So what I will do is I will start thinking about the data that I have before, and in order to build a similar, I would say, data schema. So the first thing for me, it will be to store the film name. And this, for the film name, I will add some name. I will put this name is Umbrella. It's one of the short films that you can find online. And this is a string, okay? I will just, oops, sorry, I think I should add plus, and I delete it, okay? Just let me put it one more time. Film name, Umbrella, okay, and then enter, and let's put another one, film type. This is an animated short film. Film year, let's put here 2021. All right, let's keep everything string here. Don't worry about the types. Again, we'll discuss more about the types. There are, integers. There are obviously this one, the integer, right? We can make it an int, right? So I have a type again here. We can change it to string. We can have anything we like. For the moment, I will just keep everything as string, all right? Just to make my life a little bit more easy. So let me find here where is the string. All right, here, I found it. And now I will add one more value here. I think I will have it film link. This is the link to the YouTube, all right? Just put it here. It should be fine. Insert the data. I inserted my data. Eventually, I did my first record, okay? It took some time. I did some mistakes, but that's fine. This is my first record. I can add more records. I will not do it now, but I can add as many records as I want. Now, similar records always. So for example, every record would have a field name, field type, field year, field link. And that's my database here, and that's my simple record. Now, I will go here on the left side that says databases. I will go here and says connect. All right, so the connect shows the way to connect here. Now, we'll connect from Node.js. So I will go here and say, I want to use my application. So I selected the second one. Let's go back. This one, connect your application. And, I want Node.js. You can find it here in the list. And I want for or later. So just select the last one. You can see here this one, right? This is the script that we'll have to use to connect to my first database and extract my data. So I will copy here this one, okay? I will copy here this, and I'm ready now to use this database. All right, just close. And perfect. I will go back to my Visual Studio Code. I will stop my server here. To stop this, I can just press Ctrl Z or Ctrl X, depending where you are. In my case, I just press Ctrl Z and I stop my server. I will need to install a MongoDB package for my Node.js. All right, so I will say npm install mongoose. So mongoose is the package that we will use for Node.js in order to connect to MongoDB. So let's run this. Let's wait for a second. What we have to do now, we have to go to this app.js. I will go out to the top and I will say, I want to enter the mongoose package here, mongoose. I call it mongoose, all right? And I will go somewhere here before the listen, and I will say, let's try to connect using this URL, right? This URL that we take here from the connect. So again, connect, all right? And I can see here this URL. I will have to connect here. I have to change my password, although this is just hidden because they don't want to show you. But we'll remember the password. Probably we should do it. So mongoose dot connect. And here I will say, the mongoose URL. I will create this mongoose URL. And probably I will have a message that will say in the console, similar to the server, to the listen, but your MongoDB connector is on. Meaning that you are connected to MongoDB. What I have to do is I have to create this constant here. I will call it murl. I will see something like that. So I just paste here. Okay, let me just rearrange my window a little bit. Paste here the whole thing. All right, just paste it as I found it from the MongoDB. I have to change the password to 1234, and that should be all. Just save it. And as you can see here, it says, I want to connect to my first database. Now, let's go back to the environment. Just close this window. Go to Browse Collections. My database is not called my first database. It's called Minifilms. So I have to also change this. I would say, connect to Minifilms, because this is actually my database. It's not the one that you set, right? Usually we have to create a database that's called my first database. So we don't have to change this, but that's fine in our case. We create both steps at the same time. I have my connector. I have my MongoDB here. And what I have to do is to restart my server. I just run npm start. And I have an error, and that's fine because I will fix it. Let's see what I have to do. It says here your IP, your 3000 port is already up and running. That's a common mistake because the previous example that we had was running, and this means that the 3000 is already on. So what I will do is I will just stop this. And what I will do is I will go to 3001. There is a way to stop now the port and clear the port, but I will not do it for the moment because it will change a little bit our direction. Let's go to 3001 in our case. Let's run it here one more time. So let's start. Okay, it says your server is up and running and your MongoDB connector, not connector, that's fine, is on. All right, so we are connected to MongoDB. We are connected, but we didn't extract any data. Now, let's extract the data from MongoDB and show the data on the browser. So when you go here and you say films, right? Instead of films, what I will see this film here, the umbrella film. Let's do this. It should be fine. First thing, I will go here on the mini films folder. I will create a new folder, and this folder I will call it models. All right, so here I will have my models. Make sure I have it here. So I create a folder called models, and in these models I will say, there is a film schema that represents the film. Add film.js, and inside this film.js we will generate a schema that is exactly the same as the schema that we have here in my cluster, in my films data base and collection. So it has to have a film name, film type, film year, and film link. Okay, so let's go back and let's create the same schema. So what I will have to do, I will have to say constant here mongoose, import the mongoose, okay, require mongoose. The next step, it will be to create the schema of the film, all right? So I will call it film schema. I will call it like that. And this will be a mongoose schema, all right? So follow exactly the capital here. And in this mongoose schema, I will generate a schema. And the schema has the following fields. The first field is field name. I will call it like that. And this field name, it is of type string, right? So that's my first, I would say, attribute of my schema. All right. The second one, it's film. If I remember correctly, film type. That's again the representation of my schema. I just create how the schema should be in my database. I have to do the same exactly as it is in my database. So film name, film type, film year, film link. Okay, film year. I can easily copy paste now from the above all this because everything is a string. It should be okay. Film link, all right? So film link, that's a string. I have my schema ready, and obviously, as we say always, we have to export this. Now here there is a special export. We say module dot mongoose, not module in this case because this is mongoose package. Export the model. And the model, it should have the name, as the name that we have here, films, you can see here, films. And this film should refer to this film schema. Okay, so I map what I have in my database to what I expect to have in my application. It should be exactly the same schema representation. So if I have, for example, an integer in my schema, in my MongoDB, I should have here an integer, right? Instead of a string here, I should add an integer. But for the moment, I will leave everything as string. So I saved, and I just created again a film schema inside my application. I will close this window. I don't need it anymore. And remember, the film.js is inside the models. I will go now to my films, and I will just try to see how I can extract data from my database. Eventually now I should be able to do this in the next step. First of all, we have to say here, constant film, right? And in the film, we will require models, and the one that we created is called film. So the film, every film is represented by this particular structure. All right, so we created the film. Now, I will go inside the get, and whenever we go here in the films, instead of saying, I will send films, I don't want to send this anymore. I will want to connect the database, extract the data, and show the data to my browser. Let's see how we'll do this. Always you have to remember this. I will try to do that, right? It doesn't work all the time, all right? So this is why we use these try catch. It's very common in programming. Always, whatever we do, we need to have these try catch, right? So I will try, and if there is something wrong, I will catch an error, And if something goes wrong, I will send back this a message. Don't worry about this, a message and an error. It will not happen in our case. I promise you it will work. But you never know, all right? It could be an error, something happens. So inside the try, I will try to connect. I will say, constant films. You can call films from DB or whatever you like. I will connect to my database and find the data. Before we connect to the database, we have to use here what we call await. Await means that you will make a call, you will try to connect to MongoDB, but this might take time, right? Because there is a network internet connection, there might be delays, so it's not a synchronous call, it's not something that goes and comes back, right? You should wait for a response. This means await. We'll talk about synchronization in the next classes, but for the moment we should know that whenever we make a call to another service, such as the MongoDB, we use the await to make sure that we can wait for the response back. So whenever you say await, you have to say here on the top that this is an asynchronous call. So I just use these two keywords here, and that's it. That's the only thing I have to do. Now, I want to find from the film, all right? And now when I press film dot here, the Node.js represents me here as a MongoDB query. A simple MongoDB query is fine. Fine means select all. So it's like I go here in my browser and I say, I want to see all my data. And something like that. It's the simplest query that I can do. We can see how we can customize the queries here. I will give you also some list of commands, how you would find all the movies, how you can find the movies that you want with particular ID, something like that, right? Whatever you like, you can customize this. It's totally normal to run queries. Any kind of query, you can find it. So in my case, just select everything. If I have, let's say, thousands of data, I don't want to see everything, I can say here, limit and bring me only 5. That should be the limit if I want to have it. I will just leave it as a comment because in my case, I don't have. Even if I put it like that, I will see only one because I just have one record. Okay, so I save it here and I will say now, whenever the user requests for this film, I will send back, in my case, I will send back the films that I just took from my database. So these films. Okay, let's save it. All right, everything is fine here. Okay, let's go to my browser. I can see my data here. Let's go to my films and let's press enter. Remember, we changed the port to 3001. I will just change to 3001. And yes, I can see the data from my database. It works. I was able to connect from Node.js to MongoDB, extract the data and show it to the browser. What I did, if I go back to my Visual Studio Code, I created a root. Then I created a data model that I call it film. We don't call it films, film here with F capital. And this film is the schema of a film, right? How a film should look like. I represented everything like that. I just, create the film schema and export the schema, and that's fine. And then in the roots, instead of, saying you are in your films, you're supposedly to send the data. So I say, send the films that you want. In our case, select all the data. Okay, so I think it was not so challenging, although there are some new things here that we need to always remember, okay? So what I will do next, I will go here and say, I want to create, let me organize a little bit here the spaces, so I don't want so many spaces, just keep your code always nice and neat. So whenever you go here, what you will do, imagine I go here and I say, I want the film this one, right? This ID, okay? So this is the ID of the film one. So instead of having all the films, I can see all the film one. To do that, maybe I should add one more film, all right? So let me go here, back, and I will say here, insert one more document. That has, again, one more time, I have to type all these things, all right? So film name, it will be, let's go to YouTube, okay? And let's find a short film. And let's say this one, coin operated. So coin operated. All right, so let's go here. I will say it's coin operated. This has a film type. I will say again, this is animated short film. I think it should be film year. Just make sure you follow the same ideas before. 3 years ago, so I will put 2019, and then I will put here film link. So let me just go here and just stop this and just find here something like this link. I just take this link, add it here, insert the data. Data is inserted in my database. I can see the 2 records here. Now go back to your local host, run this. Yes, I can see 2 records here, okay? The first ID and the second ID. Now, the next step for us is to extract one particular record. So I don't want to see everything. I want to see the record with this particular ID. Right? So just copy this and say, films, but I want to enter to this record. Probably if I press enter here, nothing will happen because I don't have this root. And obviously there is no functionality in my backend to bring me only this record. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code and bring this into the user. Router.get. Okay, again, I will go now to something like this, film ID. So I create a small variable here, I will call it like that. And this film ID will be what the user will give me. Okay, so the user will give me an ID. I will make an asynchronous call. Now we know that when we work always with MongoDB, we make this asynchronous. I will try here, and I will catch there. I will just copy this because I'm boring now to type again. And I will say here, as before, I will just copy this also as well. Now, instead of doing this particular call and find everything, let me get rid of this. In the films, you need to find by ID. So I will select the second option, by ID. And the ID is request.params.this film ID. To access this variable from the browser that the browser will give you, we have to say it is actually something that the user will give me. It's the request of the user, and this is the parameter that the user will give me. So to access this film ID, we don't just put here film ID. Right? If we put like that, we'll never find it. We have to say request.params.film ID. And instead of calling it films, I will say, film by ID, and I will send it back to the user. Supposedly I did it correctly. Let's go back and try. All right, so the moment of truth, yes, I can select only this record. It works. Let me get rid of this. So the first one is the umbrella, the second one is the coin operated, so I will take for the second one. Let me add it here. Yes, I can extract the data. Now the data is in JSON format again. Obviously we need to rework the data to show it as we like, but the first step is there. We were able to connect the database, select data, and select data by ID, or like running a query with some parameters. Before we conclude, 2 things that we need to explore more. The first is, let me go back to my Visual Studio Code, and we said that we can change this port. Remember, we changed it from 3000 to 3001. It's not a good practice whenever you want to stop the server and start again to change the port, because the port is already in use. So what we'll do is we'll go here on the terminal, we'll press Ctrl-Z to break this, or Ctrl-C in Windows probably, and we'll run a command that it says kill all -9 node, and this will kill all the processes. It means that it will stop all the processes. So just run it. You might see 1 or 2 or 3 killed processes here, as many as you had. And now I will go here, I will make it 3000. I will start my server, supposedly that my port is now cleared. So I will start with npm start. Okay, I think it's fine at 3000. I will go to my browser. I will try at 3000. And I don't want to see all the films. This film, I will just everything, right? It works fine. I can see the films at 3000. And the next thing that we need to do is to download and install Postman. So Postman is a very nice software for us that we can use in order to make calls to our service. Now, without knowing, we created an API, and this API has a particular schema about the films. In any case, we'll talk about APIs a lot in the next classes, how we create, what is an API, how we customize it, but we can understand that more or less there is a way for us to extract data from a database based on the particular format. In our case, I have the films, and inside the film I can have the ID of a film. So I will ask you to download Postman. Please go and download Postman, install it in your computer, and then come back to this video. Now myself, I installed Postman. I logged in Postman, or you can just use it without the need to log in. I will go here to Workspaces, and I created a new workspace. This is a private workspace. You can make a public workspace. It's really up to you. And I will call it Minifilm. So in my case, just click on your workspace. And now I can make calls using Postman to my service. All right, my service in my local host at port 3000. So I will go here. I will click plus. I would say localhost at localhost at port 3000. And bring me all the films. So let me send this request here. Yes, you can see here I got my data now, and it looks nice. First of all, it's a the pretty JSON representation. You can see here it's JSON. You can extract different types of data and select here the appropriate format. And the second thing is that I can start playing around with some configuration here about authorization, headers, and body that I have to configure whenever I make a call. I don't have always to do a get. Get means bring me data. I can actually make a post that means put data, or put, that is actually the same as post with some small changes. Patch is about update, and delete is about deleting, right? We will explore this in the next webinar. For the moment, we'll use only post. I can try also, bring me a film, this film. So let me just put it here, send it. I can extract only this particular film, and you can see this is a URL. So it works fine. My Postman looks better than running everything in my browser. I can just close this here, okay, close this here, and I have my calls here organized in front of me. All right, so I have my Postman, I have my Visual Studio Code, and also I have my data on MongoDB cluster that I created. All right, we did a lot of stuff. I hope you now are ready to create a small service by yourself. Feel free to select the model that you like, create a small database, take the connector, put it in Node.js, create a new application with a new route, add some data, and then extract the data in Node.js. For data extraction, I will recommend from now on to use Postman. In any case, in our next class, we'll just go directly using Postman. All right, so that would be all for this session. I hope you enjoyed. You now are able to understand how the things work behind the scenes, and we will see more of this good stuff in the next webinar. So see you soon.